Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. She was born to rock, soothe, and stir the soul. Mercedes is a world renowned singer songwriter who was born to rock and bring listeners' worlds together. Mercedes, how are you doing? She's also so much more, which we'll dive into today.
Good morning. I'm going to say congratulations again on your fabulous engagement. You pulled it off into a fabulous scene full of love and gorgeousness. Congratulations.
I appreciate that, Mercedes. That's so nice. And yeah, it's pretty incredible because you get to control everything in your life, and it's exciting. So, Mercedes, for you, where did your journey start? Because we can look around and see all your success, and it's like, how did that start for you?
Um, just kind of naturally. I just have to say that there's one thing about me, and it started from when I was very young. I've always had a lot of triumphs, a lot of turbulations, and a lot of obstacles to get through to be free. I was born to a very conventional kind of family. And if you will, in old terms, I'd call myself the black sheep. I don't like rules. And I think that I was just gifted with this, if you will, um,
Yeah,
a lot of energy from painting to music. It's just, that song, I got the music in me. I was born with it, you know?
absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I, I mean, you find this a lot with people who had unique careers and different accomplishments where it's like, the conventional way never satisfied them. It's always, how do we do this better? How do we make the most of this life? How do we take this to the next level? Um, so for
As I,
you,
as I
yeah,
see the young generation get so many opportunities to be things that, and I not by far old and don't want to age myself, and who cares about numbers anyways, but I'm saying when I was growing up, like my first little outfit that I wanted a Bruce Lee outfit. And I was so tiny that my mother had to sew it. She's an incredible, seamstress anyways, but she would sew my stuff. But people wanted Barbie. I wanted like the black belt, and I was tiny. So there was a thing about it, and I was put up a few grades. So I had to always be that little person. So when you're little, um, you kind of got to fight a little harder. Being raised in Ohio, even like, for example, being on the tennis team, and being a vegetarian, that doesn't quite work because you're, in Ohio where you've got some strong women. And so I was basically the exhibition player, but if I couldn't hit the ball hard, I sure made it look good, So it was kind of like that kind of spirit in me. And I think music was always, I think it's in my book. Like my dad would say to me, how do you remember every lyric to every song, but you can't remember where your homework is or where your bag is? So it was, I think, I had a lot of tragedy as a young child. My sister passed away, and there was a lot of turmoil, and leaving where I was born to a different country and not speaking the language. Music was something that could always take away the pain. And so, my nickname, one of my nicknames is Birdie, and it's kind of like and so listening to it, even learning English, my whole life was in headphones. The way I learned English was
yeah,
apple, apple, orange, orange, and having the kids, call me deaf, dumb, and mute. Granted, it wasn't the boys. The boys were nice. The girls were hard. You know what I mean? And then I said to myself inside, I'm going to master this language and I'm going to kick their ass. So it was kind of thing. And then later in high school, and then to become so prolific in a language that wasn't my native tongue, that was my championship belt. So, and those formative years, uh, you know, when you're 6 and 8 and 10, they kind of make your clock who you're going to be. If you learn at that time of your life to get knocked out and get back and smile and deal with stuff, which for me, I had no choice. It was either
yeah.
that or walk around being mopey. And I think the key that I learned a long time ago, and it was from a classic song, smile though your heart is aching. And I think the greatest revenge you can have on any people that no, you can't do it. No, it's impossible. No, I am possible. And those words, I don't, you know, one of my first managers, Rick Davis, who I loved, he worked with the Rolling Stones, remember? The first thing he said on camera is, Mercedes just doesn't know what the word no means. You know,
I love,
if
yeah,
you
and
take
that's
the word
so,
no and turn it around, for me, you add it's on. It's on, you know?
I love that, and it's so powerful because there's so many parameters where people are like, "We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that." And we were talking before the show, and it's like, how many rules are there that we follow that are just not cohesive to happiness? Like, how many rules just don't work? Like the condo I live in, there's a gym, and on it, it says the rules are work out 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., 10 p.m. I work out at like 5 in the morning. I'm breaking the rule every day. And it's just because a lot of these are just silly and we don't need to be constructed. Because as we're growing up as kids, I noticed that a lot of people you hear no so many times that you place yourself in a box. And the whole point is to realize that there is no box. We create our own box in our mind. And I think that's what you're getting at here. And it's really
Really,
powerful stuff.
I think the key to life is, and I can't use any foul language because I'm going to try to be cool here. You've got to not care about they. Who is they said? Who is what said? I mean, I was raised in a very kind of contradictory situation where my mother would say to me, "You've got to love everybody. There's no color. There's no this. There's no that." All of that. And in the same breath, but you got to marry a Jewish guy. What the hell? I mean, or marry a established men. I loved what Cher said to her mother, "Mom, I'm the rich guy." You know, to quote her, "I'm the rich guy." To this day, you know, having my fiance pass it off, complicated love letter, whatever, let's skip that subject. My mother still has that message sometimes where, oh, I mean, here I am doing things that most mothers would give them standing ovation. And I love her, believe me, no offense. You know, maybe someday you'll fall in love again. He'll just take care of you. You know, those messages, that's not what love is. Nobody needs to take care of anybody. It needs to be two complete people coming together because life is a fight. You know, it is. It's a fight. And sometimes you got to be the boxer and she's got to be the corner man and vice versa. Then she's the boxer and you're the corner guy. And if you can do that dance and supply endless support without judgment, love could stand a chance, you know? But we have all these boxes and all these rules and all these things that I think by the time we shed them, we realize, ah, shit, here we are in our 40s and 50s and we've got this much time left and we wasted all this time. I don't know what the switch was in me. I really, and I think even my childhood friends would say, I never really cared what other people thought. I think my
Yeah.
biggest, even in my clothing, I design clothes. If you stand long enough, I'll paint you, you're in trouble. I never wanted to have the same dress as anyone or the same outfit. I'd always rip it and put it to do this, do whatever I do with it. I mean, I remember playing the troubadour and I look out and I see some chick in my outfit and I'm like, shit. And I'm running across the street and I get a Sharpie, cut it up, put safety pin. That's rare that it does that because most of the time, I think it's to not be afraid to be unique. You're going to get
Yeah.
punched, to be, especially as a woman in the arenas that some stork dropped me in. I mean, we do have to work way harder. If we
Yeah.
have an outgoing personality, we are continuously asked to dim our lights, but there's no dimmer here.
I'm smiling and I love it.
Understanding and I will treat every person with the utmost respect, but pedestals don't work. That's
Yeah.
been my crime when I was young. You can't, we're all human. We all have our flaws. It doesn't matter what we've achieved, because at the end of the day, we're not taking any of this with us. None of it.
Absolutely. And I was smiling during all of that because it was funny. I had a reflection on myself and I was like, wow, Jordan, as a child, I was very curious and I still am very curious. And that's why, but it was funny because when I was a child, it was very like, it was a negative connotation. It wasn't like, it was just Jordan asks a lot of questions and we don't have all the answers and he just keeps asking questions. And
Well,
that's
that's
cool. And
kind of intelligence. But as you travel the world and you see children and you see how other places allows the difference. I mean, if we have a child with extra creative, energy, and they need a lot of stimulation, they've got ADHD, or they've got ADD,
yes,
or they've got this. No, man. I mean, if you look at nature, all right, and just sit down, nature will teach you anything you really want to connect with. And you look at a pod or a herd, damn, they don't all have some same personalities. There's the clown, there's the this, there's the that, but there's no doctors medicating. Not that, I mean, there's extreme cases, whatever you need to do. I'm not anti anything, right? But I'm saying, why all these labels? Why
yes.
are we having to have labels on so many things, to where most of the conversations that you see in these podcasts today is how to refer to something, what's the label, what's this? It's like, and it's all, I'm all about love, but who are you? Who
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you? Let's get back to,
Exactly.
are you? Who are you? Who are you? Tell me who you are. It doesn't, these labels, these boxes, these, slogans, that's for Coca-Cola,
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it's super important because like I was talking about with the curiosity, it's during that it was a negative moment. But now with the podcast, it's a positive moment where people are like, "Oh, you're interested in other people?" Yes, it's a positive thing. So it's that, where do we find ourselves? Where do we place ourselves? And like you're saying, who are you? That's not always, I'm not one thing. I'm not just a podcaster. I do other stuff. And it's hard for people to conceptualize and rationalize that concept because they're like, well, I only do one thing. So how can someone else do five things? That doesn't make sense. Can you
Well,
help? Like,
if you think about a very simple, deep, deep, deep philosopher, Shrek, he's got layers. We all have layers. And when we don't connect as human beings, and which is what is, there's a suicide pandemic, there's a drug pandemic, there's a loneliness pandemic, there's all this. And I'm not against social media, though I have to say that I don't get the like things and all that. That doesn't run my life. But I think that somehow this generation next, they need to remember that we are born in tribes, in pods, and this isolation and the solo and the narcissism that is being perpetrated is going to create more and more and more and more and more mental illness. I remember going, it's really funny with a lot of my friends' kids, they'll go, "Oh, you can come to the party, but mom and dad can't." I call it the stage, right? Music does that. And you go there and you see all these kids on their phones. And one day, one of them, I was like, "All right, guys, let's play a game. I'm going to teach you guys how we used to party." I said, "Put your phones away. DJ, play some slow dance." And you know what? They had the best time. They didn't want to stop slow dancing because it's, that's the prelude, the touching, the holding, the shaking hand. Well, you can't do that when you're here. You can't. And I don't care how advanced you are technologically. As a human being, we're part of the ecosystem. We're part of nature. We're part of the star system. We've got to connect. And what happened with the past few years of being isolated, it is magnified, the isolation and the detriment, especially to this young generation that doesn't quite get that your friends are your best therapists, not your family, your true friends.
yeah. And I think the most important thing that we're trying to get there is the importance of presence. There's so much time where you could be with someone, but you're not with them. You can be there, but you're not with them. And you guys know that when you're standing in the Starbucks line and everyone's on their phone because they got an Instagram DM or they want to look at what else someone else is doing. But in reality, we don't allow ourselves to be bored anymore because we just grab our phones. And the reason I wanted to do this podcast is because we can sit here and realize what happens when you get super present with someone. Like the cool thing is, me and Mercedes are using technology for our advantage, right? Like we're not in the same state. We're in the same country, but we're not in the same state. But so we're able to have this conversation. However, we're both speaking and we're both present with each other, which is why it feels so flowing. Because next time you go outside, and I would say this to the audience, really focus on your presence. Like if you go out to dinner with your parents, realize that you should be really present with them. If you're hanging out with your friends, be present with them. If you're by yourself, do what you want. But if you're with somebody, try to make an effort to be present. I think it's super important and it alleviates a lot of the stress that we're feeling.
And I can give you out there a key little note in life and in business. Some of the most successful people I have been around in my entire life, and I'm talking epic legends, turn their phone over and are present. That's why they're champions. You know, when you are able to make people feel like you're there, and the key to it, Jordan, now you see it, you're freshly in love and you guys are always looking into each other, right? As time goes by, it happens less and less. And remember what I said to you on the preview to this podcast,
Yeah.
I said, don't forget to look into each other's eyes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your looks, it doesn't matter your size, none of that matters. It's this. That's where we truly connect with sense, with sound. I mean, I don't care how many texts you could send somebody. There's nothing sexy than a conversation. No, there's nothing more that's going to like knock on all of your chakra doors and open up the difference between the feeling of that one night stand to like creating true intimacy.
Yeah.
You know, true intimacy, whether it's friendship, whether, you know, when was the last time most of you people that are so busy had lunch with your mom, who carried you, who lifted you, who paid your bills when you couldn't and did all that stuff and really looked into her eyes and listened and gave her just an hour. But you'll give all these perfect strangers an hour. And the other thing too is with businesses, you'll go and support these celebrities that don't know you, that may not even stop to sign an autograph. But God, will you share somebody else's independent music or independent podcast, or they'll go by, but take a moment to support? You know, if there was more of that grassroots, everybody wouldn't feel so alone. You know, even if you do the same thing. I remember hearing this, and even recently, you know, I'm open to working with other agents, sharing the commissions, doing that. I got back, well, they don't want to do that with you. Okay. But what makes the Kobe Bryants, the Magic Johnsons, the Michael Jordans, the Tina Turners, even the Adeles, whoever, what Ed Sheeran, why does he grab your heart? Because when you look at his Instagram, when you look at who he's about, he's just, baby, I take me to your loving arms. He just wants to sing women or anyone who wants to fall in love those words that we're dying to hear, like back in the day, Bryan Adams did. But when you're surrounded, and no offense, I love hip hop. I had some great remixes and my voice is on some of them. But when you're called bitches and hoes and all that, all you got is you're about money and you're portrayed that all you want is a Louis Vuitton bag from some guy. God help y'all, because we didn't have that. And I hope to God that you find love outside. You know, there's two things, and you see a lot of this happen. You see women staying with athletes and celebrities that are, you know, not treating them right or cheating or that is called a woman that's in love with a lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's not love. That's love, a lifestyle. Love is I'd die for you, I'd lie for you, walk a wire for you, Muttling and, Bryan Adams, and I was lucky to have experienced love in this lifetime, more than once. And one of my greatest loves was Michael Shipley, who did all the music that you guys listen to everywhere, from AC/DC to Shania Twain, you name it. To me, he was just Michael, from Def Leppard,
Yeah.
you name it. But what he taught me was that playfulness, the romance, the inclusion. And I find that in European culture and stuff, there's no real dating. There's none of all that stuff all the time. You go, you bond, you're friends, you hang, there's a prelude. And it's not like we'll get together on Tuesday or 3 o'clock or darling, I'm on my way. You want to have tea? It's just more spontaneous.
Yeah.
Love needs to be any kind of relationship. God, people, a little more spontaneous. We don't need to book a movie 2 weeks in advance and confirm 5 times before we get to the movie theater. I mean, are you really that busy? Because I've noticed with some of the big people on the planet, if they really love you and have a connection with you, they're there no matter what. They're responding, they're present, they're there. Someone's not, connection is false.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because you got my brain going a bunch of different directions. Because, like with Madison, my fiance,
Yeah.
what ended up happening was we were dating for a little bit, and then I told her I was going on this trip, and she just came and traveled with me, and we went to stay in like 8 different states, 8 different cities, and we just traveled around for 8 months. And it was an incredible experience, but it's that spontaneous nature of leaving some room for what if, or what could be, or what's possible. And how many times in our life do we not leave a little leisure room for, like, what could this be? Where could we see this? And it's in our personal relationships, but it's also in our friend relationships. It's in who we hang out with. It's in what we're doing, or it's doing a new activity you haven't done before, or doing something different. It's just there's a lot of opportunity out here, and I think that we don't always make the most of that experience when we're with people. So I think that's super important, and you're bringing up a lot of great points.
It's opportunity meets preparation. There is no luck. When the opportunity is there, take it, because there might not be another shot at it. Fear, being shy, and all that sure gets in the way, but get out of there and take that shot. Just take, and you know what? You don't even have to be aggressive about it. Manifest it. Just see it in your mind, see it in your mind until it happens, and realize there's a surrender, and we're not in competition with each other.
Yeah,
There's plenty for everyone. Open the doors, um, there, and there's been times where a great man said the most important thing to me on the planet. His name was Angelo Dundee, who was Muhammad Ali's trainer, and he trained 16 world champions,
yeah,
which is a record that probably will never be matched. He said it doesn't cost anything to be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. And I think going through PTSD and trauma, I remember a time in my life where I was like this, and just not wanting to connect. And to me, the world was bad. Oh, the world is so tough. The world is so bad. And then I got back to my spirit of smiling. I'm like, oh, people are smiling back. That's really it. There's no harm
yeah.
in a good person. Take care of
One,
you. Be good to you. Don't be codependent. Don't be loyal to the point of robbing yourself, which I'm all guilty of all that stuff. But as time goes by, and like you said, joy, as many celebrations as possible, and as little pity parties, as possible. That's life, right?
Absolutely. And you bring up some really good points, because we sit there and we ponder these ideas of like what makes us happier, what's possible, or how do we handle these, or how do we struggle, like, and it's just being that present in that moment. And like you were saying before, of like basically what you give out, you get back. I run, I have like a 6 mile loop that I do, not like probably once or twice a week, and I'll run it, and it'll be earlier in the morning, and there's always people out, and no runners wave at people. So I'm running past these walkers, these bikers, these families, just waving at people. Half the people don't wave back because maybe they didn't see me, they didn't catch it. If they see me though, they always smile and wave. Because the thing is, we are all searching for that community. We are all searching for people to be our friends and to be connected with us and have these connections. Because there's so much of it that we don't have. There's so many people who don't have it. And when you do, when we're not caught up in the race, because I feel like we're always in this, oh, this person did this person did this. Focus on you, and it will take you so much further. Now, Mercedes, you brought up a very important point. You brought up about with the 5 pillars of Edwards Consulting, it's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. And you were bringing up a little bit about PTSD. So, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Just because there's a lot of people that want to run around and say everyone's fine, everyone's okay. And like if we open up the reality, it's that people do struggle. There is a mental health crisis going on in the world, not just America. But yeah, you can you elaborate on that and how you overcame? Like, what are some of the tools you used?
I can honestly tell you on the line of trauma, I've suffered epic, and I don't know if I want to sit here and describe some of it for you and bring you all down, because I'm going to tell you that from finding a dead body after 2 days to being, physically attacked and then some, to the levels that are absurd that the society still has happened, to being molested when I was young, to being held at gun. There's so much. Um, Swimming has been my savior. Music, swimming, creating, and truths, and, and being able to share it. I, who you see today, spent 4 years reclusing, not being even able to connect with the world. I escaped a lot to Morocco, where I found a lot of healing, because you see so much there that you can't even have any pity for yourself, because you see people that have nothing, that have absolute joy, and that's what you go for. So swimming, wanting to move on, and allowing myself the time to heal. And that doesn't say that you heal completely. It is scars, and there are scabs, and there are layers to it. It's not, there is no end result to any of it. It's a life process. And the key to it is when you are able to understand what soldiers go through when they've been to war. And you got to understand, in our society, there are wars everywhere that women experience, that children experience, and that are just as horrific as being in the front line, watching people's heads being blown off and limbs being taken care of.
Yeah.
Our soul gets ruptured. It's allowing yourself to hit rock bottom and be that weak and be that infested in that pain, and taking it moment by moment, step by step. Nature, swimming, sense. And I'm going to throw a big one in here that one of my greatest mentors gave me is, when things are horrific, watch comedy. Watch comedy.
Yeah.
Because what is the other side of comedy? Tragedy. So
Yeah.
try to surround yourselves with the beginning of life, with people that are enjoying life. There's going to be a time where you might want to bond with other people that have been through your experience, but then there's a time that, how many times can you tell that story and hear that story? You got to focus on babies being born and beautiful things being built, and the tulips in Amsterdam's are blooming, and look at that monkey, he's being, things that are just, and get back to the things that you loved as a little child, and try as much as you can in that isolation to keep the door a little cracked and allow someone in to come in and grab you.
Yeah,
Got to break, and if you got to break a bunch of dishes and do what you got to do, get it out, but just don't hurt anybody else.
yeah, I love that. I mean, there's two major points to that I found really interesting. Is the
Oh wait, one more
Morocco point? Yeah.
thing. Thing saved
Yes.
my life. I forgot all about it. One of my Larry Musgrove, thank you, and thank you, Joe Frey, and all those guys. I mean, boxing empowers you and gets that rage out of you to where you can find surrender. You can
Yeah.
control, and I hate the word control, but it is control your pain, control your reactions. And that's the key in life. Is I remember as a young woman wanting to over please and being overreactive. Today it's lean back, listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the 2 points where you go to Morocco and get a perspective change, because we don't realize in America how good we have it here. We have food, shelter, clothing. Majority of the world struggles with that. I think there's 2 billion out of 8 billion people who don't have running water. Like, what are we talking about here? And we're concerned. It's just a proper perspective that it really helps. The other thing I love is the 3 or 5 things you named, from swimming, music, creation, boxing. I don't know about you, but they're pretty free activities. Like, anybody can do them, which is so
I mean,
important
Joe
because
Frazier grew up in such poverty. I mean, his mother had to carry a bucket of cucumbers for a mile for 25 cents. He took a bag and stuffed it full of hay, hung it on a tree, and just and soccer, another one of my biggest. Oh, I'm a soccer freak. My dad had, grew up with my uncles, and everybody into soccer. You see, as you travel, I remember in Morocco, and shame on me for telling that story, but I'm in a store in this little village, and keep in mind, I don't criticize. They're happy. Most of those people are happy, trust me, in their poverty in their little village. And I remember I was with my dearest best friend who drives me around Kvish, and we were in this market, and it was this little village up in nowhere. And this little boy looks at me, and he looks at the soccer ball, and he looks at me and looks at the soccer ball. And of course, I'm going to buy the soccer ball and give it to the kid. I don't have kids, so for me, kids are everything. And I remember in that moment, and I said to them, don't film. I said, hey, when you become Ronaldo or Messi, here's my business card. I'm going to represent you. And it's like, when I saw that soccer ball, and of course, afterwards, all his friends showed up, and I bought all the soccer balls in the store. You see that little kid that was playing with this little thing that he made with stuffed socks and old shoes, that soccer ball was more important to him than any damn Bentley or Rolex any of these ballers have, because it was the key and the door to his dream. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that he puts that card in his pocket. And who knows, maybe someday I'll get that call.
that's incredible. Because the other thing we talked about is, like, with kids nowadays, there's so much no and there's so much constraint that if you could be that little light of joy where maybe his family maybe they're not being inspirational, maybe they're not supporting him. And
Jordan,
it yeah.
it's not, they didn't have it. I remember being a kid when somebody told me they were hungry, I thought they didn't have time to eat. It means they didn't have it. We
Yeah.
need to know people don't even, they make, $100 a month, $300 a month. They got to support 5 kids. The soccer ball
Yeah,
dollars is like,
that's out of line.
it's a lot. And in our perspective, it's nothing. Stick it on Amazon, buy it on Google. But for that little kid that won't even see an iPhone, maybe when he's 18, that was the door to his dream, because he knows who Messi is. He knows who Ronaldo is. And that is his,
Vision. Yeah.
they got out of hell. So is he,
Yeah. And but I'm saying it's so amazing how to you it's a big gesture, but I'm saying that the gesture there might have changed the trajectory of the child's life. and realizing that in our audience, anybody can do these little things for people where it's just inspiring a group of
But you
people in
have
some sort
to
of way.
bend down and say hello to a child and not make them feel like they're insignificant or you're tired. You know what I mean? Just, hey, how you doing? You look great. People are so afraid, Oh, no, interact, interact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. It's so important. And Mercedes, tell us what's going on with this book that you have.
Well, I'm not allowed to reveal the title yet, but it's quite the title. It's about this crazy little life of mine and
Yeah.
sharing the things that we shared today. Darren Prince got me a book proposal deal. He has been a great friend and a brother. Can't say it's all been roses, but God, do we know how to get through a lot of great things and grow together. So proud of him for what he's accomplished with his sobriety, which I was a witness to. And so I am also the creative director of Aiming High Foundation, which is providing, financial support for people that are seeking recovery that aren't able to afford it. I'm sure you'll post those things when you post it.
Yeah,
And
100%. But Mercedes, how do you before we finalize, how do you think about charity? Because a lot of people, when I do the 5 pillars, I say, hey, it's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. That community service and philanthropy, they usually go, I haven't done that in years, or I'm not sure. I don't really have anything regarding that. Meanwhile, your life is kind of coming around that. So how do you see that in where you're at and where you've met incredible people, you've done there, you've been there, you've done it? How do you think about that?
um, this voice was given to me. I didn't work for it. I didn't study it. Never had lessons, nothing. And with it, let's get back to the word no. If someone calls and, I've helped in some endless amounts of foundations and
Yeah,
I don't know how to say no either. If it makes someone's life better or it helps a child heal or all that stuff, and I'm having a hard time finding the words because it's uncomfortable for me to. I like to do this more behind the scenes, but I will get up in front of the scenes and collect money without a problem.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, that's what it takes. Um, I've been on the board of some big foundations, and most of my passion lies with, I work with Chico Brown and gang prevention and intervention with Penny Marshall, and for brain things for uh, abused women, for children. It's in the world that I'm in. Is can you sing for it? And knowing all these celebrities and knowing all these athletes and working with them, it's easy for me to call and get a glove and get a ball and get a this and get a that and call the Dodgers and buy a table and da 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 da. Just
yeah.
to keep it going. The key to it is I'm selective in making sure that these foundations are all about the money going to the cause. And it's just, when you see somebody in 110 degrees outside thirsty, it's just God's calling that you're going to give them water. Sure. That's human.
Ah,
That's just
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I just wanted you to share that part just because I think it's so important realizing that charity is huge. Charity is really important because there's a lot of people who do need it and it does make a difference. So, Mercedes, you are absolutely incredible. I appreciate the time. Where can people find you? Where can they locate you? Where are you? Where's your music?
well, I can't say I'm the biggest social media person, but I'm there. I'm trying. And you can find me at Mercedes Music 18. The music, and I've been blessed to work with some of the greatest musicians and producers on the planet, is at mercedesmusic.com. As a sports person, and I do a lot of things with princemarketinggroup.com. And one of the new passions on board is Aiming High Foundation, again, to support people that are looking for recovery that can't afford it. And there's so many more things this is kind of like my comeback. So they always say that, there's the win and then there's the victory. and then there's the win, and then there's loss, and then there's a loss, and then there's a tragedy, and then there's the damn comeback, which is the sweetest thing on the planet. It's how you get up
Abs-
that canvas and find the will to find joy in this world we call
Absolutely.
a mess.
Absolutely. And I want everyone who's listening right now for that to be a reminder of this can be their comeback. This can be their wake up moment. So, Mercedes, thank you so much. I'll put all this stuff in the show notes.
And don't let all that age and numbers and what society's like rules of when you should do this and when, nah, you can bloom until the day that you pass.
I love that. Thank you, Mercedes.
Jordan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you.